So this is another topic. Usually it is not handled as a lecture because the slides will be sufficient, I think. And then I'll be sharing the slides in the uh, platform. You can see that one. This is about a brief history or the historical developments in the bioinformatics. Anyway, that's a part of your syllabus. You can just go through that. I will just navigate the slides for your information. So you can see that the origin and history of bioinformatics that is discussed here. And in 1981, uh, you have about 579 human genes had been mapped, and the mapping was done by in situ hybridization and had become a standard method. In and Marvin Carruthers and Larry Hood made a huge leap in bioinformatics when they invented a method for automated DNA sequencing. So previously, some of the sequences were actually, well, at least by 1981, some of the genes were mapped, but later the automated DNA sequencing techniques were invented, and that changed the entire pace of development. So in 1988, the Human Genome Organization was founded, and this is an international organization of scientists involved in Human Genome Project. In 1989, the first complete genome map was published of the bacteria that is of a Haemophilus influenzae. And in the following year, the Human Genome Project was started, and by 1991, a total of about 1,879 human genes had been mapped. Then in 1993, Genton, that's a company and a Human Genome Research Center in France, that's a research center in France, and it produced a physical map of the human genome. 3 years later, the same research institute published a final version of the human genome, human genetic map. So that's in 1996. So this concluded the end of the first phase of the Human Genome Project. So by 1996, we have the entire map of the human genome. It's a human genetic map. It's not the sequence, okay? But the map of the genome was available by 1996. Bioinformatics was actually fueled by the need to create huge databases such as GenBank, EMBL, and DDBJ, which we will discuss later. So GenBank is, and these three are primary nucleotide or DNA sequence databases. And in the next session, we will discuss the different types of biological databases in detail. So GenBank, EMBL, and DDBJ, that's a DNA database of Japan to store and compare the DNA sequences data erupting from the human genome and other genome sequencing projects. It's not only a human genome project that was running. A lot of other genomes of other organisms were also started sequencing at that time. So such data eruption or increase in the accumulation of DNA sequence information or entire genome information was there, and that needs to be stored and accessed properly, and for which such databases, large databases like GenBank, EMBL, and DDBJ were created. And today, bioinformatics embraces protein structure analysis, gene and protein function information, data from patients, preclinical and clinical trials, metabolic pathways, and of numerous species. All such types of data, other than this DNA, actual DNA sequence information, we have various other databases like structural databases, gene information and protein function databases, then patient-related data, clinical trial data, and metabolic pathways and their information data. So various forms of other data were also available, and such databases were also developed in the later years. The first bioinformatics or biological database were constructed a few years after the first protein sequence began to become available. And that's in the first protein sequence reported was of the bovine insulin in 1956, consisting of about 50 residues. And these nearly decades later, the first nucleic acid sequence was reported, and that was as of E-selenyl tRNA. That's of 77 bases. And just 1 year later, Dayoff gathered all the available sequence data to create a first bioinformatics database. So you can see that about it's only in 1960s or 1970s, and that period, the first database was created. And that first database is not at all a computational database. It's just like an atlas, protein atlas that was first created. So at that time, the available protein sequences were gathered, and that sequences were arranged as a database. So database doesn't mean that it's always a computational database. Even a book catalog is also a database, and the library catalog of the book is also a form of database, which because it properly organizes the data. Okay, so the initial database were actually in the form of a book, not as a computational database or computer database. It's not in digital format, but even at that time, available sequences were created, and that can be considered as a first bioinformatics database. The Protein Data Bank followed in 1972 with the collection of 10 X-ray crystallography protein structures. And the Swissprot protein database that is actually started in 1987. Swissprot is a Swiss Proteomics Resources, that is a protein sequence database. And each database will be discussed in detail in the later sessions. And right now, we are just familiarizing the terms and their invention, the order of invention, or the order of creation of the database, etc. Now, a huge variety of divergent data resources of different types and sizes are now available, either in public domain or more recently in commercial or third parties. Usually, most of the popular database in bioinformatics were available in public domain. You can access that data free of cost, just like GenBank or DDBJ or EMBL, and most of the such a primary database were public databases in which the data which is stored there can be publicly accessed by anyone free of cost. But in the recent years, there is a trend that such commercial third parties were also developing their databases, more specialized databases for their own purpose, and that is also available right now. And all of the original databases were organized in a very simple way, with data entries being stored in flat files. So such databases where such data, DNA sequence information, protein information, etc., that informations were usually stored in such databases as a flat file. Flat file means it's just, you can consider it as a single text file. A text file means you can create a notepad, open a notepad and save a file in as a simply written text in a notepad, and that file is a text file. And such type of files, flat files, were the files which is written as plain text, but they should have a proper format, and we will see the text file formats in the next sessions. The data is actually stored, and the data may include the description about the concerned sequence, from where it is isolated, and the actual sequence, then the journal in which it is published, the year of publication, the authors, the scientists working on that or worked on that sequence, then the method of prediction of the structure. On such type of various informations will be arranged properly, and it will be mentioned in the flat file. So such files were actually stored in the database. Okay, so inputting or submitting a data to such a public database means giving all such inputs related with the sequence and the other information in the form of a flat file into the sequence repository. So it can be done. Such flat files can be stored either as one per entry, or a single sequence in a single file, or as a large file with multiple entries. And anyway, the structure of the file and how it is stored, etc., can be discussed in the forthcoming sections. So such databases were submitted with the flat files containing the details of the sequence or and other descriptions or annotations about the sequence. Later on, indexes were added to allow convenient keyword searching of header information, because if you submit a data, then just like any internet or Google search, usually Google search depends on keywords. Or even if you are, for example, you are submitting a scientific research paper, then scientific research paper will also have a keywords. So if you are somebody is searching with that keyword, the concerned article will be retrieved from the internet database based on the keyword. For every internet page that you are seeing, there will be a header file in the actual program code. There will be a header file giving the description about the file and also the keywords. So such files which contains the data should have a keyword string, and the words mentioned as keywords will be considered as query terms for indexing purpose, and if somebody searches with that word, this file will be retrieved. So that's how it works. So there are lookup indexes, or even such repositories, all such databases will generate indexes of the files, and the index will contain the keywords which is submitted along with the file. So if somebody searches with that keyword, for example, I am searching with the keyword insulin, and all the files which is tagged with the keyword insulin will be listed. So that's how the search algorithm works. Now, after the formation of the databases, the tools become available to search the sequence databases. And the first is a very simple way, looking for keyword matches, just like I mentioned, and or you can look for short sequence of the words, and then for more sophisticated pattern matching and alignment-based methods. So, if you are looking for insulin term, the exact term can be easily matched. But if you are looking for a particular sequence, for example, in the 3 billion base pairs, if you are looking for a 1500 base pair gene sequence, then that matching algorithm should be quite different, because it should not be an exact word match, because the database may contain insulin gene, and also you are searching with a similar sequence with a few base pair difference. For example, some mutations will be there in the query. So that spelling mistake needs to be addressed while you are comparing the sequence. So the database will contain the 3 billion base pairs of the insulin gene, and also your sequence in hand, maybe 1500 base pair length will have also that's also of the insulin gene, but there will be some mutations. So it is not exactly matching. So that type of searches, because usually DNA sequence in database of and all the different insulin genes from different locations will have similar mutations. So that needs to be addressed while retrieving the sequence, because 100% match cannot be expected in case of a DNA sequence or such a sequence comparison or sequence retrieval attempt. So that means there should be some algorithms, some complicated algorithms, which should be based on some pattern recognition and other things. So that means we should have a more sophisticated pattern matching and alignment methods should be there for comparing these two sequences, and say that, okay, this will have 99.9% similarity with the database sequence. Your query sequence will have, your query will have 99.9 percentage similarity with the sequence which is present in the database. That is only possible with the sophisticated pattern matching algorithms. So that will develop later. And a rapid but less rigorous BLAST algorithm. That is a basic local alignment search tool. That is a BLAST. So that's an algorithm or a computational program, and that's used for such sequence comparison. And that's the mainstay of the sequence database searching since the introduction a decade ago. So still nowadays, if you want to compare a DNA sequence with a sequence in the entire NCBI database, then BLAST will be the most prominent algorithm that is nowadays used. And it's complemented by there are some other algorithms like FASTA, that's also known as FAST algorithm, then Smith-Waterman algorithm, and there are similar tools or similar algorithms were there for comparing the sequences, comparing your sequences with the database sequences. And suites of algorithms or written suites of analysis algorithms written by leading academic researchers such as Stanford, Cambridge, and Madison, and all their in-house projects were began to become more and more widely available for basic sequence analysis. Nowadays, we have a lot of tools or suites containing different tools, and one of the most prominent tool is EMBOSS, EMBOSS. That is a EMBOSS package, which contains hundreds of small tools. Tools means a single program will perform a single function. For example, if you want to compare two protein sequences, then you will have an algorithm, and if you run that command, with the input files, then you will get the result by comparison. So such type of small computer programs or a collection of computer programs which are that is known as a suites of computational packages, and like EMBOSS, that is a EMBOSS package. That is one of the examples in which hundreds of such specific tools designed for unique purposes were actually provided in a single suite, and that can be used for different types of sequence analysis. You can compare the sequence, you can translate the sequence. Again, you can lyse the sequence with an enzyme, or you can try to find the introns, exons, anything, any type of sequence analysis can be done with such specific algorithms, which is provided with the computational tools developed by such projects. And most widely used one is the package, that is EMBOSS, and we'll have some practical sessions in the forthcoming classes. Now, the organisms were typically these algorithms were typically single function tools which produces a single output. For example, the algorithms like I mentioned, Smith-Waterman algorithm. If you want to compare two sequences with the Smith-Waterman algorithm, you have a package, you have a program known as water, WATER, just water, and that water will perform only a single task. It will use a single comparison method with two sequences, and the output will be directly given. So that type of single function algorithms were actually enclosed in such packages as tools. And Unix style commands were used to operate the algorithms. Means usually, if of course nowadays you have graphical interfaces and web tools are available. But if you, for example, if you visit a website which is provided with EMBOSS package and try to compare two sequences, they will provide you with some search boxes, and where you can give the input sequences for comparison. Two sequences can be given as an input, and that will be compared, and the result will be displayed in the same website, or a graphical interface will be there. But the actual program that is running behind their server is actually a Unix style command program, a single function command program. So when you click the submit button, that particular program from their server will be executed, and the output will be again displayed back in the website. So the actual program is usually a Unix style command program. And if you have some skill on such a command line and understanding on that package usage, certainly you can directly use it in your own computer without any internet. Usually such online tools were available for sequence analysis even with the EMBOSS package. But then the program sequence needs to be submitted to their server, and it will run there, and the result will be returned through the concerned website to you. But if you don't have an internet connectivity, then also if you know how to use these Unix style commands, then you can install the package in your system, and just using that tools you can perform such analysis in your own system without any internet. Okay. And okay, that's why I mentioned the Unix style commands were used to operate the algorithms, with some suites having hundreds of possible commands, and each taking different command operations and input formats. So the commands will be specifically designed for a specific purpose. Okay. Since these early efforts, significant advances have been made in automating the collection of sequence information. So now there is a chronological order of the events which is given, and anyway, I'm not going to read all this because you can have this list, and the slide will be loaded in the platform. You can go through the different developments of bioinformatics in different institutes and other things. You can see that. So this is a chronological order of different events, and especially in human genome project development and the complete genome sequencing, etc. So this you can go through these slides and see the developments in the recent years. So finally, you can see that an international sequencing consortium published the full genome sequence of mouse which is about 2.5 GB, And then Whitehead Institute researcher Kenshin Lindvall is the lead author of this paper. And her institution lead the project and contributed about half of the sequence, this mouse genome sequence. And Washington University School of Medicine delivered about 30% of the sequence. So it's not the end. The sequencing project means multiple institutes will be collaborating in the sequencing project, and half of the sequence were done by one party, and 30% were done by Washington University, and created the mouse sequence BSC based physical map, back vector based physical map. So the Wellcome Trust Sanger Institute in the UK was the third major partner. So the details of the mouse genome project were mentioned here. And other institutes in the International Mouse Genome Sequencing Consortium include the University of California at Santa Cruz and Institute of Systems Biology. So there are various institutes involved in that one. So nowadays we have a lot of projects. Anyway, Human Genome Project was previously published, in 2001. You have the Human Genome Project that was published in 2001. And mouse genome projects were later, that is also done with the collaboration of various institutes. So nowadays, various institutes are working on the entire sequencing and publication of their entire sequence and genome mapping of various organisms, and thousands of bacterial genomes were already sequenced, and now all such sequences were available in the database for your analysis. So the data that is generated during this period by the entire sequencing of complete genome of the organisms were now stored in the database like NCBI or EMBL or DDBJ, and you can look into that sequence for further information like possible genes and what will be their product, what will be the structure, and what will be the function. All these things can be analyzed and predicted using such computational tools. So this is a brief history of some of the events in bioinformatics, and you can go through the slide anyway, since it is just a description of the different events. I'm not going to spend much more time on this one. And is there any doubts? You can ask me right now. Hello?